tools for parents and guardians to help protect their children on.
Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered today on a traditional, Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We recognize and honor the enduring presence, cultures, and contributions of the Indigenous peoples, and we are grateful to be able to gather on this territory today. Alors aujourd'hui, nous sommes réunis pour faire le point sur la...
Canada just hit back in the trade war with new retaliatory tariffs, and this feels like it's becoming a little bit of a trend here. So beginning September 8th, Canada is paying tariffs of 15 to 50% on about $20 billion worth of steel, dairy, appliances, farm equipment, electronics. $20 billion is not a ton in the grand scheme of things, but it definitely sends a message. And the reason why they're doing this is the U.S. has put new 50% tariffs on roughly the same amount of Canadian goods. Canada's basically saying, you tax us, we tax you. So who gets in here? What does this actually mean for Americans? Canada's retaliatory tariffs, they're a bigger problem for American businesses, right? Canadian companies are buying U.S. products, and now they may have to pay more. So what that means is fewer orders, potentially, for American farmers and manufacturers, or pressure on them to cut prices. For American consumers, the bigger concern is the tariffs that we are putting on Canadian products, right? Those costs can work their way through businesses and eventually find their way into the prices that Americans pay. Here's where it gets a little more interesting, though. So, the U.S. and Canada are also in the middle of reviewing the USMCA. That's a trade agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, and the White House chose not to simply extend that deal this summer. So these tariffs could also be about leverage, turn up the economic pressure now to get better terms at the negotiating table later. But that's a dangerous game when these two countries do over $850 billion in trade every year. So my read, the risk isn't just another round of tariffs. It's that a relationship built around making and selling goods together starts becoming a lot more expensive and a lot less predictable.
So, we gotta talk about the potential trade war that seems to be breaking out between the United States and Canada, okay? Because the Canadians have elections coming up, and Trump's arrangement seems to be the number one way in order to get a failing administration across the line when it comes to maintaining their power and control within the Parliament of Canada. I think that's what's going on here, because it seems as if, despite the failure of liberal governance, the Canadians are all united behind hating Trump, right? They're actively boycotting products from the United States of America, again, because of their Trump arrangement.
Amid the trade war, the federal government is urging people to continue buying Canadian. The sentiment certainly still strong, which is why some shoppers in Kentville were surprised and upset to see American wine on shelves at a local grocery store. CTV's Dylan Dyson was in Kentville and brings us more on this tonight. Dylan.
Yeah, Patricia, we were alerted to this by a viewer who said a store in Kentville had set up a full display in the front of the beer and wine section, prominently selling wine from the dusty